The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
Here we go. The My Backstory podcast brought to you by, well, we're not sponsored by the Derby, but we're at the Derby in Arcadia, California. I'm here with my brother from another mother, Scotty Too Hottie Randolph. Scott Randolph and I grew up together, and he's actually a little backstory on Scott is when I decided that it was time for me to get off all of my drugs and what have you, opiates and other pharmaceuticals. Scott was like actually the catalyst for that. We were hanging out. I had just gone through a divorce, and I was like, man, I need to get my life together. And Scott at the time was really into SRF, Self-Realization Fellowship. And dude, we were paddleboarding like every Sunday and going out in the middle of the ocean. That was like our church, the Sessions Regimes. And so yeah, we got
well, we used to go out in the middle of the ocean and smoke a joint.
Yeah,
we used to bring a joint in a Ziploc bag.
Make sure it's waterproof, bro.
And just puff it out in the middle of the ocean.
Totally. And so I don't know, there was something about like that whole journey where I was like, dude, I kind of realized that I was in charge and I was, powerful beyond measure. And so I just made the decision. I told Scott I was going to do it, and I was like, dude, I'm just going to quit everything cold turkey. And he's like, dude, it's kind of gnarly. And I think everyone around, Scott was the only one that really, I don't think you did, were against that at all. Actually, I think you're like, go for it, whatever. A lot of other people were like, that's dangerous, don't do it, that's stupid. I got a lot of flack for it, man, a lot, especially from my family. They were not digging it.
I'm sure on the podcast you've talked about like what you've done though, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, you don't need to get into the detail, but like, how many drugs do you think you were on when you got sober, like, or at that time, like how many different pharmaceuticals were you on?
I can go over all of them. I think, yeah, pretty sure. So Klonopin, definitely, anti-anxiety meds, Ambien to sleep at night, Oxycontin, morphine sulfate, methadone.
You were on all that when like we met up?
Oh yeah.
And then wow, you had no idea.
Every day. Every day was like a cocktail, bro. Like I would wake up, I didn't take Adderall every day, but close to every day.
Well, you'd have to because you're so nodding off from the methadone and the.
So I was all jacked up. So I'd be like, dude, I need like a little perk, and so I would go. I would go and have like 5 shots of espresso, like over ice.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because that helps.
Yeah, totally. And then I would pop an Adderall. I'd wash the Adderall down with that espresso. And I remember one day, dude, I was like, dude, my fucking chest is hurting, dude. Like my heart was racing and like palpitations and stuff. I was like,
it was the espresso, dude.
I don't know what it was.
Too many shots of espresso.
It had nothing to do with the methamphetamine I was taking, but or amphetamine salts. But yeah, no. So I was taking a lot of shit, man. And when I quit, it was like the worst year of my life, dude. It was really hard, like really, really hard.
What year was that?
October 8th of 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
I was doing Talisape at the time.
Yeah, you were, dude. You had that spot down by right by the bridge in LA.
Oh yeah, fast stitching.
Yeah.
So
sure.
We were doing Talisape down in like Spring Street.
Yeah.
Right by the. I haven't been down there in a while, but it used to be a cornfield.
Really?
There used to not a cornfield LLC. They do a lot of like raves and stuff over there, but like I rented a place from a Vietnamese guy, like a Vietnamese like sewing shop. Yeah, he used to come down and visit me. Oh, that was a gnarly time in my life.
Yeah, for sure, bro. So we, I don't know, man. I think the timing was like perfect though to like just be done with everything and just get over it all. And yeah, dude. So that's the story of Scott. Kind of like, there's way more to it, but that's like the backstory of we grew up together. We were hanging out. He was like probing me, kind of, if you will, to like do some self-discovery. And through that self-discovery is really when I realized, like, dude, I am a fucking mess. And so, yeah, dude, I was like, no, I'm done. And I quit it all. So Scott's actually, I don't know, most of you will know who Steve-O is from Jackass and stand-up comedian. He's actually his road manager and business partner, and I don't know what else.
I help produce all the stuff.
Yeah, so producer, road manager, and business partner of Steve-O. So he gets to travel all over the world, all over the country, and just doing all kinds of really, really cool shit. And when you first started that gig, dude, you were living in Venice, right?
I was living in Venice, and I was.
How did that come about?
I just dissolved Towel Safe. I remember I was like, I had this business towel safe, and it was a workout towel with a Velcro pocket on it. And I had it all over the United States. Like I had it in Sports Chalet, Big Five, Bed Bath & Beyond, GNC, 24 Hour Fitness, TJ Maxx, like a bunch of different locations. And it was doing really well, but I was making them all in the United States. And so like I wasn't, the margins were terrible.
What was your profit margin on that?
I was making the towels for like $2.60. And we can cut that, yeah? We can.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, sorry. We just got a note from the server saying there's gonna be live music, but that doesn't bother us.
Make the podcast even better, dude.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. So, dude, I remember I was making the towels for like $2.60, and like Bed Bath & Beyond was picking them up for like $3.25 or $3.50.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
And so I was selling thousands and thousands, but the problem with those big box retailers is they don't pay you for like 60 days. So I'm coming out of pocket so much money, and I owe so much money to everybody that I couldn't get a loan because my personal credit was terrible, because in 2006 I had bought a house. In Arizona when the same time the market crashed. So like I had a foreclosure, so it was just terrible. But to answer your question, how that got started, I dissolved the company, and I was like, man, what am I doing with my life? You know, it's like I was high as fuck all the time, and I was like drinking every day, and I was just trying to run this business, and I was kind of like, I was living out of my car to make ends meet, and I moved from my car to my dad's, and then I was there at my dad's for a while, and I got sober. We can get into that later, but when I got sober, I dissolved the company, and I started working at the Chart House in Malibu.
Yep.
And I started going to 12-step meetings, and I ran into Steve at one of the meetings, and he was friends with my brother. So we knew each other from my brother. We had gone surfing a couple times together, and then he kind of knew it was on the same tip as he was, and he was traveling for a comedy tour, and he hit me up. He's like, yo, dude, like I need somebody to come on the road with me.
Yeah.
And so I went into work, and it's a funny story with that. I can get into the recovery about that later, like kind of like the crazy thing that happened to me there. But yeah, so I went on the road with him there, and he was like, well, he's like, I have some t-shirts you can sell, like if you want to make a couple extra bucks on the road. Yeah. So we went to Tennessee, and I went to the show. We were selling shirts, and I just sold all the shirts. Yeah. And I was like, on the way home from that trip, I was like, dude, Steve, like, you need to get a credit card machine. We can get more products, like, because I just had come from the background of running a business. Yeah, for sure. And so since then, like, he was like, all right, well, I have like 4 or 5 dates on the calendar, like, opened up. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, dude. Like, I went back into the Chart House, and I was like, hey, look, like, I quit. Like, I'm going to be on the road. And so, like, since then, like, we've every comedy club we go to, like, that was 6 years ago, maybe like 5.5 years ago, and every comedy club we go to, we sell the most merch out of anybody. And then, like, since then, I've been kind of like, like, he had a team of people booking flights for him, or he had people doing this. I'm like, dude, I can do that very easily. So slowly but surely, like, I started taking up more responsibilities with Steve, and then we just became really good friends, and I started handling all the road stuff. And then when we started filming stuff, I was filming, and then it's like, okay, hey, let's film a bigger stunt, let's coordinate the people. So I'm the guy to coordinate all the people. And so it slowly but surely started working its way up. And the funny thing is, like, I don't want to tell you the name yet, but a couple days ago, we're starting a hot sauce business.
Nice.
So we got some. I don't want to give the name of the way.
I can't wait to hear it. It's gonna be funny though. I already know.
It's epic. Everybody, I've already went into a couple restaurants, not restaurants, but markets, and I'm like, hey, like I told them the name, like, oh, dude, we'll pick this up for sure.
That's hilarious. But I can't wait to hear that shit.
So that's how I met Steve, and we've been together for like 6 years, and I leave tomorrow for New York, and actually tomorrow, speaking of recovery, he's got 11 years.
11 years.
12 years.
Oh wow,
10, 08. I think he got sober March 10th, 2008.
Nice, dude.
So 11 years. Yeah, 11. And then I just hit 6 years of recovery. Okay. 6 years of sobriety on March 1st, 2013 is my sobriety date. 3113.
That's awesome, dude.
So yeah, that's kind of the long story of how I met Steve.
It's good shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't you go into your backstory a little bit, dude? Like where you grew up and what like what your life was like. For those of you that are like, probably I'm 37, Scott's 36, I think, or 35. What are you? 36, right?
I'm 36. Yeah. I'm 35. I turned 36 April 26th.
There you go.
And I think our food's here. What'd you order?
I ordered a bacon wrap filet with some smashed garlic potato. Did you get the same thing?
I got the same exact thing.
Oh, did I even hear what you ordered? I mean, I heard the bacon part, the bacon wrap part.
Yeah, I don't normally eat like this, but like I got a bacon wrap filet, charred rare. I like it charred rare.
Oh, dude, black and blue all day, baby.
And I'm wondering, like, I'll try to eat, at the same time as I talk and kind of tell my story at the same time. But
would you say this is called muck?
No. Well, yeah. So I was telling Josh, like, dude, we're doing mukbang, and somebody said it to me, like, mukbang is a type of, like, I want to say podcasting where people, the guy doing the podcast eats in front of the audience, and it's like a banging in Korea.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and
so
people,
we're mukbanging right now.
I think we're mukbanging
minus the visual.
I think it's kind of like it's only the definition is visual, but I think this kind of I don't know. I don't even want to get myself into a trap there, but yeah. So my story is, I mean, I guess I can kind of give you the highlights. I grew up in Pasadena, California. I grew up in Catholic school, and then I got into a lot of trouble in Catholic school, and I got kicked out in 6th grade.
Why'd you get kicked out?
I was just always in trouble. I mean, kind of how I was at Temple City High School where I met you, but like imagine doing that at a Catholic school with nuns and there's 13 people in the class.
Right.
So at 6th grade, they asked me to leave, and then I went over to Pasadena Christian, and Pasadena Christian School, I got in a lot of trouble there, and the irony is I met like some of my really, really, really good friends, but it was also like it was also like 100 kids in my class versus 13, and like there was just more debauchery and more like just people that were like me, and I was like, oh yes, dude, like we were just throwing books out of the classroom and locking the teacher out of class. It was just, it was pretty gnarly. And so from there, I was supposed to go to like, a Catholic school, or like, more my brother and sister were going, but I got in so much trouble that I got no letters of recommendation to any school in the area. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I got no letters of like recommendation to any high school in the area. And so like at that time, my brother had gotten kicked out of high school at all boys Catholic school and was going to Pasadena High School, and he was doing drugs and getting rowdy. And that was like the district that I should have gone to. It was Pasadena High School. But like my mom was like, there's not a chance in hell I'm sending you with my brother, because I would have been a freshman, he would have been a senior, and he was already just getting into like a ton of trouble.
What do you think that was, dude? I mean, I've met your mom and I've met your dad, and they don't seem like, they're not bad people at all, dude. So what was it about you and Steve, dude? Just like, your sister seems like she's got it all going on, dude. She's not like a troublemaker.
Yeah, she's killing it. She's like straight A's, never drank in high school, and like.
Right. So what was it about you guys? Were you like, did you guys have it?
I think I think my brother had an insecurity, like his own personal shit that like made him just was a dickhead, and I looked up to my brother, so I tried to mimic him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that's pretty much what it was. Like I really looked up to my brother, and I was like, and he was a dickhead, and so I was a dickhead.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a dickhead in the sense where like people got along with me. Like
Totally. But you had a lot of friends and shit like that.
But I think just like getting in trouble was kind of like was the goal, you know, and just kind of like my mindset at that time in life. But so I couldn't get into any high school in the area. So I went to Temple City. There was a street address that of a family member that lived in Temple City. So I used his address and went there. And I didn't like it at all, man. It was just like,
really? You don't like it when you got there?
For like my freshman year, I was just kind of like, fuck, man, what am I doing? Like, you know, it was just kind of like way out of like my realm. Like, you know, I guess you'd say comfort zone, but I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And I remember I signed up for football, I think it was, like going into like my sophomore year. Or Mike D went to school there halfway through the year at 9th grade. Like Mike D is one of my best friends, and he moved schools and went over there. So like once he finally got there, I was like, oh yeah.
What was Mike D before that?
He was a La Cañada High School.
I didn't know that.
He was there for a half year, and then he came over to Temple City. So I was like, okay. So we signed up for football together, and we started playing. Then I started meeting all you guys, and then we just started like, you know, everything started taking off, and then we started partying hard, and it just was like downhill from there. And it was fun, you know, it was a lot of fun, and it was, I don't know. I mean, just coming back to Monrovia, like, you know, all the hotels around here we used to party at, and like I went to make amends to one of the hotels here that I kicked a hole in a bunch of walls over there, and they were no longer like around, but that's another story. But
yeah, the Santa Anita Inn's gone too. We used to party there a lot, dude.
Yeah,
tore it down.
Yeah, so dude, we partied our faces off, like, you know, and we're doing drugs in high school, and just it was fun, man. It was fun, like, you know, going down to Alan's house and like fucking having a rager like on a Tuesday night. Like his mom didn't care, and then like, you know, because most of our buddies, like, I don't know, I mean it's like their parents were absent, so it's like,
oh dude, that is so funny you say that, dude, because I was thinking about that the other day. Like, my mom wasn't around. You know what I mean? When I came back to California, like, she was pretty much out of the picture, you know? And so my grandma was raising me. And my grandma, I mean, I was like a respectful like kid, you know? So like, she would just tell me like, hey, you know, be home at like whatever time. Or she would ask me, when are you going to be home? And I would tell her, and I honored that. I was always early, so like she just let me do whatever I wanted. But my other friends, like with Adam and all these other guys, it's like, dude, like we would be out. I was like freshman, sophomores in high school, like out till like 3, 4 in the morning, dude. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, what is up with these parents, dude? Like, I get my situations, like I don't really have parents, so it's kind of like I'm just doing my own thing. But my other friends, I'm like, dude, do your parents just not give a shit, dude?
They just didn't give a fuck. And I remember like, what was crazy for me, like Alan was buying his own clothes like freshman year. I'm like, dude, you about to buy your own clothes? And he's like, well, yeah. Like, why? Who buys your clothes? I'm like, my mom. Like my mom, you know, she does my laundry. Like you know, so just seeing that, and like just seeing like Alan take bong loads in front of his mom, I'm just like, you're like,
oh dude, Mama Fletch was like subjected to all kinds of debauchery, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Debauchery, dude.
And so I mean, it was just wild, right? Like over at Alan's house, like you'd have like dudes coming over smoking PCP, and then you'd have like P-Dogs. People were just smoking crack. You had Butt Crack Phil coming over. Like you just had the craziest mix of people going over there. And I think like just being around that, it's kind of like that's where you kind of got introduced and like really comfortable around that kind of like setting and environment, you know. And like I would go pick up drugs, I'd go pick up like weed from this guy who, like, I would walk in and I'd walk past the pit bull eating beer cans, and like 3 dudes that just got out of prison, and it's like I'm coming over there from water polo practice, like, hey guys, how's it going, you know? But they all liked me because I was like funny guy,
right?
And so I don't know, just going to Temple City High School really exposed me to a lot of that stuff, and it was just wild. And then after that, like, you know, dude, I tried going to City College, and that just didn't work. And you know, I tried different jobs, and I tried doing different things. And when I was 22, I bought a one-way ticket to Europe, and I traveled to Europe for a while. And that was amazing. You know, that, like, I think going to Europe at like just buying a one-way ticket to there, like it kind of opened my mind because like
You and Derek, right?
me and Derek, like we were just so broke and so hungry and so starving that like I wasn't picky about the food I ate, right? And so like people would like welcome us into their homes and like they'd be like, oh, you know, all we have is like stir fry, and it's like it's not like, oh, I don't eat broccoli, like it's like, oh, thank you so much because you're so fucking hungry, you know what I mean? So I just think that like when you're exposed to that kind of shit, it's like when I see somebody that's like in their 20s and they're a picky eater, I think they're emotionally 9. Like it's like, you know, you still eat chicken fingers with ketchup, like you just haven't evolved emotionally or spiritually, right?
Yeah,
and so like
so
so going to Europe like really exposed me to doing that kind of stuff, and but what it really did was like unlock my thirst for traveling, and I was like, oh my god. So over there, I think I did like 9 countries, and it was crazy just like talking to people and just getting exposed to like different politics and different religions and different, you know, I don't know. I mean, some crazy shit. Like just walking around Rome by yourself at like 2 a.m. Like I remember I was with Derek one time and we were just walking around the streets, like drinking wine, and these flower guys stopped us, and they're like, "Hey, dude, like, you want to take a hit?" And we're like, "Yeah, for sure." And we smoked this shit, dude. I don't know what it was, but I know like the flower guy hit it, and then he passed it to Derek, and then Derek took a hit, and then I took a hit, and then I felt my brain go numb, and then it went down to my feet, and then it worked its way up where I just couldn't feel anything. And I looked over at Derek, and Derek just looked like he was getting abducted by aliens. Like he had his mouth open. It was like looking up into the sky, and I was just like, bro, what is this? And the guy's just like, fucking A right. And I was like, oh my God.
Heroin or what?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I just think it was, I don't have no idea what it was. And so then I remember, so it's like doing stuff like that when you're by yourself in the world at like 20, 21 is like really, you know, it's just kind of like, there's just your parents are 3,000 miles. So, you know, everything's just so new. And so like, but doing that like really opened my eyes. And so when I was over there, I remember I called Alan and I was like, yeah, we're having a crazy time. I just got my dick sucked by this chick from fucking, you know, wherever I was. I'm like, dude,
Slovakia.
Yeah. And he's like, dude, I just moved to Arizona. Like, dude, we're all buying houses out here. It's fucking popping off. And I was like, oh, no way. And so he was like, well, I'm getting married. You should come back to my wedding. So I flew back to the States and went to his wedding, and that was at the time when like the Arizona housing market was like popping off.
Oh, yeah.
So then I was like, man, like, dude, I want to travel more. And so like, I was like, that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a house and flip it and take like 40, 50 grand and go travel the world. So I went over to Arizona, I bought a house. I bought it on my credit card because I was just like, oh, dude, easy. So I put the down payment on my credit card. I bought it for $190,000. Okay. I moved out there because like in order to get like an owner occupied home, like you had to live in it. So I was going to live out there for like a couple months and then like get it rented out and then move back.
It's too fucking hot. Get out of there.
And then the day I moved in, they changed the sign that said "Welcome to like Bella Vista Homes from the 190." They took the sign down and put "Homes from the 120." I was like, oh no, dude. And then I was like, I'm stuck out here. So I got a job and I was like working out there and like, dude, honestly, like I had one of the best times of my life in Arizona. Like I worked at Salty Senoritas and it was just mayhem. Like it was just like, I mean, I don't even know. Like 3 of the girls that I was working with were like having abortions. The bartender was fucking the host in the walk-in, you know, freezer. The manager's first day was like, we're like, oh, who's this guy at the bar? And then he takes like 3 shots, turns his shirt inside out, and he's the manager of the place. I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
So I worked out there for a while, and then like and I did that for like 9 months, and then I came back. Another part of my story is like I was an ocean lifeguard for the city of Laguna Beach. So I would you know, I'm kind of skipping all over the place here, but like I would work in the summer, and then I would kind of like travel in the winter. So that's one of the things that I did in the winter and the spring when I wasn't lifeguarding was I'd be back and forth from Arizona to lifeguarding or traveling.
Was that Gilbert?
I bought a house in Queen Creek. It's past that. So then I came back to lifeguarding, and then my house was just in the shitter, and I was like, I linked back up with a buddy who Ryan, who was going to the art center at the time, and he had a take your idea to market class. And so I had the idea, or like my dad had the idea of putting a Velcro pocket on a towel. So he was like, hey, I was like, he's like, do you have any ideas? There's this class at the art center. And so I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, man, that's a great idea. So we brought it to the instructor there. And like I said, like we started the business and we got into the market, and we could have done really, really well. It was just our first time at business, and we kind of just blew the money, and part of my deal is like, concurrently with all that going on, like in my 20s, like I was getting fucked up, right? And I was like getting really fucked up, and I really like to smoke weed, and I was smoking weed every day, and then like drinking a lot, and drinking a lot turned into drinking every day, and then drinking every day turned into,
It's not being productive, bro.
Yeah, and I think the resentment towards myself that I was like, I felt like I was just living at like 60% my potential. But even more so, like I started getting, like you when you met me, I was doing the SRF, which is the Self-Realization Fellowship, and I was like experimenting with like meditation a lot. So like I would smoke a bunch of weed and go into meditation. I would drink a lot and go into meditation. Like I was just kind of like, I'd eat mushrooms and go into meditations. I was doing coke and going into meditation, and like I was really I would really, really, really dive into that really far. Yeah. But then I would just get so fucked up, and it was just kind of like really incongruent with like everything that was going on. I was like, all right, well, I'm trying to live a spiritual life, but at the same time, I'm just getting fucking blacked out, like I'm too hungover to meditate or whatever. And so at that time, I started reading Emerson. I got really into Ralph Waldo Emerson, and the essay that changed my life was compensation. And I was looking at compensation, and I would print these things out, when I got home at night, and I would like study it and underline it. I'm like, man, how does he know this stuff? Like how, and then I would read about him, and he'd be listening to I think to kind of backpedal a little bit, like I was reading a lot of Think and Grow Rich. Hi, yeah, thank you. The book Think and Grow Rich, I read that like religiously.
Oh, Napoleon Hill.
So when I was doing a business, I was doing everything I can to stay motivated and to stay like, it's like when you're an entrepreneur, like you constantly have to like inspire yourself on a day-to-day basis, or like there's just too many voices in your head and too many people telling you to stop, and like, oh, you should.
Dude, motivation is fleeting, and that's where a lot of people like fail to understand. And it's not just in business. I think that's just in life in general. Whether it be a fitness goal, whether it be a business goal, a relationship goal, whatever those goals are, dude, motivation is not something that stays. Drive does, though. Drive stays. Motivation is fleeting. So like, I think with entrepreneurs, like I think the issue, like you said, dude, is like, dude, trying to find ways to keep yourself motivated. And then because, dude, when I met you, and you're the one who told me about Think and Grow Rich. Because dude, you were like a self-help guru, dude, at that time, dude. Like Wayne Dyer, Napoleon Hill, James Allen. I mean, dude, you were going down the rabbit hole, bro.
So I was going to really deep down that rabbit hole, and I was like, man, like, how does Napoleon Hill know this? And so Napoleon Hill stories with like Andrew Carnegie reached out to him, and he made introductions to like the billionaires of the day, right? And so I'm like, man, like, he'd talk about different stories of people that like were really successful, and I'm like, man, how do these people know this? Look at this guy, dude. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have Ozzy Ramadan.
Ozzy Ramadan in the house.
So we have a buddy, Ozzy from high school, that's stopping by the table at the Derby. Hi, how are you?
Dude, you can jump on the mic.
Yeah, you want to jump on the mic?
Well, I don't want to interrupt you guys.
No, that's fine. You can sit down for 4 minutes.
Dude,
I'm just kidding.
That mustache is freaking awesome, dude.
I had a robust beard for a while, and I couldn't let go of all of it at once.
Hey, we'll put a pin in where I was at with Napoleon Hill, then we'll introduce Ozzy.
Yeah, for sure. So Ozzy, what's up, dude?
How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. We're sitting here. Scott's sharing his backstory with us, and
He's got a heck of a story.
yeah, he does, dude. Let's hear yours a little bit, dude. Just a real quick synopsis, dude.
Yeah, well, I was born in Lebanon.
Oh yeah.
It was raining that day. Many people think the angels were crying.
Was it really raining?
No, I don't know. It sounds more romantic that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm here celebrating my mother-in-law's 70th birthday.
Oh, nice, dude.
And this is my first time at the Derby. This is pretty exciting.
Is this really your first time, dude?
Yeah.
Wow. Dude, your virgin trip, man. This is what's up, dude.
Be gentle, guys.
You live in Long Beach now?
I do, representing the LBC.
I was just down there, bro, for the One Love. Did you go?
Where?
The One Love Festival at the Queen Mary?
Oh, no, I heard about that the day of.
Bro.
I need to get my game together.
It was pretty good, dude.
Was it?
My cousin's band was playing, so like I went, you know.
Epic.
And yeah, we got on the little Uber to like get us in, you know. And the guy's like, I can't take you in, you know. That's you know, you gotta go on those shuttles or whatever. And it's just like, dude, you walk on there, it's like Cheech and Chong, dude, 5,000, you know, like the whole bus is like just covered in smoke. It was gnarly. But
Sponsored by Snoop.
pretty much, dude. But it was a great time, man. I had a good
Next time, I got to go for sure.
So, like, yeah, Ozzy, I actually knew Ozzy because we went to high school together as well.
Played football together.
And then you left high school and became a big shot teacher, man, teaching down in the inner cities, homie.
Yeah, big shot. Working in Watts. That's where all the big
shots. Are you really working
go.
in Watts? Is that what it is?
Yes, 8 years now.
Bro, that's like, I commend you, bro, honestly, because I don't think... It's not for the faint of heart, dude, working down there, you know what I mean? And I honestly think that teachers are probably some of the most, if not the most underpaid profession in the world, I think. Because so you're in charge of, like, if I look at my own life, right, and it's like my mom and dad weren't around really. I mean, they weren't like big influences on my life. My teachers were though.
Oh,
my football coaches, my teachers, like the ones that like, there's someone I'm still in contact with, dude. I've gone back and thanked them for like the influence they had in my life, for believing in me and like getting me to not be such a fuck up.
Dude, that's fantastic.
Yeah, bro. Teachers are
Who really
huge,
sticks
bro.
out in your mind? Is anyone you want to shout out?
Oh, definitely, bro. Miss Holterhoff is like at the top.
Who's
of
that?
Miss Holterhoff. I don't know if you had her, English teacher. She was Miss Brashko initially, and then she got married and changed her name to Holterhoff. Di Fiore, obviously, dude. Coach Di Fiore is like huge, bro. So those two for me were like the biggest like influences because
tell us why.
I mean, it's gnarly, dude. And she lives in England now. I still talk to her, you know. And Deefy, I just had dinner with him not too long ago. He lives up here in the hills in Monrovia. So wife's a doctor, so he's living the life.
Fantastic.
He married smartly. But yeah, life is good, man.
I remember one time running routes for Di Fiore. And did you ever see him throw? That guy had a hose.
Yeah, for sure.
He would put 50, 60 yards in the air, and none of us could catch up to it.
Yeah, no, he's gnarly, dude. Probably one of the best like mentors I ever had. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, definitely.
That's beautiful.
Because he taught boys how to be men. You know, in my opinion. You know, you see guys that like I played with, or you know, that were in the same grade as me or whatever. You're learning a sense of discipline that like most kids that aren't playing that at that level are not learning. And most of us like went on to be relatively successful, whatever that means in our own minds. And it's like I think that had a lot to do with it. You know, is the discipline that we learned, the hard work, dedication, all that other good stuff. And yeah, so I'm thankful to him. And some of the hard stuff that I went through, like even in the military, I told him, I was like, man, like all the shit I was going through, like I was like, there's nothing these people can do to me that he didn't already do to me. You know what I mean? He was tough as nails, man. So anyway, enough about that. Back to you, bro. So what are you doing? So teaching, and then what's up, dude? Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna like go teach at the college level? You gonna stay in high school? What are you doing?
You know, I kind of feel like right now I'm finding that I am where I'm supposed to be. I get excited to come to work every day. I see the kids, I see my colleagues, and they inspire me on a daily basis because I work with some really inspirational people.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm just having a blast. And I'm actually taking the CSET in a week or two to become a PE teacher because So I've taught history, I've taught English, and I want to start teaching PE too because I want my job to be a thing that actually helps me be healthier.
That's awesome, man.
You know what class they should teach at schools is teaching
Finance?
That for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But teaching young kids how to like control their testosterone.
Oh,
because like a lot of kids like are just injected with this shit, and then all of a sudden they're so fucking out of control.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody teaches them that like, yeah, dude, you're not supposed to do that. So it's like I think that's the cause of a lot of abuse towards women is because they just don't know how to handle their hormones. And I'm not saying like there's any excuse for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like I think if you teach kids that like, okay, like you have all this testosterone and kind of learn how to like it's like a waterfall. It's like you got to learn how to dam it and like and harness that. Like I think it would go a long way.
Sexual transmutation.
And I think the cause and effect of that would like these kids would be 24 and they'd at least know that like, you know, that like control yourself around a woman or like learn how to do certain things and you're not like sexually assaulting them, you know what I mean? Because it happens a lot.
Right. No, that's true. I mean, what do you think helps with that? Because I try to meditate with the kids sometimes, you know, like I bring them in when I feel like they're real hyped up and before a test.
I think just like having awareness that like they have it because they don't even know that they have it. They just have pimples and they're just ready to fuck.
Well, yeah, dude. Yeah, no, seriously. Honestly, like I think the conversation needs to happen because I think it's like kind of off the table, like it's taboo to discuss any of the shit. And it's like, hey, listen, like if I look back at my high school years, dude, and like, yeah, I was flooded with testosterone. Maybe. What did you say?
Oh my! You had your dick pierced in high school,
bro. No, that was after high school. I didn't have it pierced in high school. No, but I look back on it. It's like, dude, I'm shocked that I don't have like more like kids and like whatever, dude. Like I just being reckless, dude. Reckless. Like no regard for anything. Just being an idiot. You know.
What would have helped you back then? Like looking back on it now, what could have been something that someone would have said or showed you that would have?
I think someone coming like maybe like a young, because there were some young mothers there, some young fathers, you know, like coming and like talking about, dude, how hard it is, dude, raising kids and like how much they had to give up to be like parents. You know, it's like, dude, like we had to give up our lives to like parent this kid. Like we're out of high school now because we're taking care of a kid, and it's like I never even thought about it, dude. That decision. I mean, like, you know, I don't want to get all graphic, dude. Be like, you know, not wearing protection, just kind of like just going gnarly with it and being
skinny
like
dipping.
Yeah, skinny dipping like a jerk. And yeah, man, just
Dude, it breaks my heart. Honestly, I have a lot of students that have, you know, some of them have called me dad, grandpa. You know, like people that have been really close to my life who have gotten pregnant at their sophomore, junior year, had multiple kids, and it really pains me because I understand like how hard of a hill they have to now climb, knowing that they have that to take with them, and they've dropped out of school, and a lot of them are doing it because, especially for the girls, it's that vicious cycle, right? Where you come home, there's nobody there to take care of you because mom's working 1 or 2 jobs. And so then there's a neighbor who kind of gives you a little bit of attention, and that turns into affection, and affection turns into pregnancy because you don't really know how to take care of your body in that way. Right. And next thing you know, I've had girls tell me that I want to get pregnant, mister, because it'll be the first thing that loves me back unconditionally.
Makes perfect sense.
And that's like, wow.
Makes perfect sense, dude. It really does, dude, if you think about it, because I can think about my own life and be like, hey, man, like, I remember when I was like started having kids, it was like I felt that like because of my relationship with my mom was so like toxic. I was like, well, at least when I have kids, like that's one thing she can never take away from me. Like they'll be mine. Like no one can touch them. They're my kids, and like I can protect them and treat them the way that I want them to be treated, the way they should be treated. And yeah, dude, it's gnarly. So that totally makes sense to me what you just said. Totally.
And I totally want to commend you on that because a lot of times people repeat the turbulence that they lived, right? Yeah. But you decided at a young age or whatever age that you are not going to repeat that pattern. And I've seen the way you are with your children. You are a loving, doting dad. And this is coming from someone who grew up without a father. Right. That's a beautiful thing to grow up with, man. You're going to give them a sense of security and assurance that a lot of people have lacked. So kudos to you, and those kids are lucky to have you.
Nice, man. I appreciate that, man.
Let me get out of your guys' hair. I know you guys are in the middle of this. I'm going to go back to dinner, but it was a pleasure seeing y'all. And good luck with everything.
Thanks for the guest appearance, bro.
Yeah,
that was
man.
awesome.
They love you, bro. I want to order some bread pudding here just because I feel like we should order something.
If my battery dies, dude, I'm just going to have to ask one of the waiters if they have like an extra AA battery.
Okay. Well, let's just get back to it. I think where I was
You're on Napoleon Hill.
So Napoleon Hill, and I think like I was like, man, like how did all these people that he was interviewing know this stuff? Like because it's like you don't get taught that in school. A lot of them didn't even go to high school. A lot of them didn't go to college at all. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and I saw that there were like a lot of them were reading Emerson, and then Emerson was talking about stuff that like I just never heard before, you know, and he was reading like Thomas Paine, and then Thomas Paine was reading Aristotle, and I just kept following that like that rabbit hole like down to like all of a sudden I was at like Socrates, like 400 BC or you know whoever I was reading like Marcus Aurelius, and like they're all literally saying the same thing, and what they all had in common is what they all went inside in meditation. And a lot of the quotes for them was like, man's problem stems from not being able to sit in a room quietly alone. And back to Emerson, like he was a big advocate of that, and he started the transcendental movement, in the like 1890 or whatever it was, 1880s. And but back to compensation, he wrote an essay on compensation. He said, like causes produce like effects. And I was like, man, what does that mean? And he was a big like proponent of cause and effect. And so I looked at, I was like, okay, how can I relate that to my life? And Napoleon Hill even talked about that. He's like, he's like, anytime you can follow nature, you're not going to go wrong. And Emerson always talked about how nature followed cause and effect. And so I was like, okay. And so I was looking at the effects of my life. And at that point in time, I was 29 and I was broke. I was fucking borrowing money from my dad. I just moved from my car to my dad's house. I mean, it was just kind of like unmanageability times 10. I think, the analogy that I like the best, it's like I felt like I was eating soup with a fork, right? I was like working my ass off and I wasn't getting any results. And I was wrapping my head around that mathematical equation. And I was like, man, like, okay, like what if like causes produce like effects and my effects are so shitty, what are the causes? And I was like, okay, I'm hanging out with like criminals. I'm fucking drinking every day. I'm doing drugs every day. I mean, ad infinitum, that list of just kind of like, what was going on. But I think the common theme for me was like, I was like, all right, well, what can I do? I was like, all right, I'm hanging out with these certain people because I'm doing drugs with them. So I was like, let me cut out the drugs and let me cut out the booze. And so doing that, I realized I couldn't. Like I kept trying to do it. I kept trying different ways to do it. And I was like, man, like I have a problem. Like I can't stop using, And at that time, my brother was in recovery and I didn't want to go into the 12-step program because I had a lot of resentment towards my brother and just for the way like he treated me growing up. So I just kind of like, fuck the 12-step programs and all that. And hey, what's going on? How are you? Good to see you. I was just taking a picture of us. And so I wanted to go into these people keep pointing, so I lost my train of thought.
Hi, how are you?
Nice
to see you.
And so I just kept trying to do it my way, right? And I just kept diving deeper and deeper down to motivational literature, and I would use motivational literature to like get high off of it. So I'm like, oh man, okay, I'm listening to Wayne Dyer. I'm not going to drink for like 3 days, and like it really helped, but then it would go away, and I'm like, man, okay, like it's not working. And so then my brother sent me over a thing from the Big Book, and it said like all the ways we have tried to stop drinking, and one of them was motivational literature. I was like, oh fuck, like it got me, dude. And I was like, all right. So at that time, I was at a wedding and I saw a buddy of mine. I saw this guy that looked like Keanu Reeves, and I was like, dude, who's that guy? He looks familiar. And I was like, oh my god. And it was my buddy Casey. And before that, the last time I saw Casey, he was like shooting up dope inside of a restaurant, right? And he didn't know I was there. But now he looked phenomenal. And I was like, dude, like Casey, like what have you been up to? And he's like, oh, dude, I got sober like 2 years ago. Like life is great. And I'm like, fuck, dude, just another sign, And I was like, all right. So I had his number on hold for a while. Like I had like the drunk's prayer, please help, like help me. I had that text sent to him and but I never sent it. Like I had written it out. I was like, yo, dude, like I need help, but I just never wanted to like send it because I was like, once I do, it's kind of like it's on, and I'd have to quit drinking, and I'm like, fuck, so finally got bad enough to where I remember I was like, my life was completely unmanageable. Maybe like 2 weeks after that, like I think it was like a leap year or something. Like it was like February 27th or 28th, whenever it was, and I shot him the text. I said, yo, dude, like I need help. And I met up with him the next day, and then we started, working a program of recovery, and that was like 6 years ago, and like since then, like the obsession's been lifted, and I mean, sure, there's other problems that come around, but like mainly for the most part, like, dude, I'm happy, joyous, and free, and like, I mean, we can get into the different things that I do now. I'm not sure how much battery you have left, but
no, I mean, if it goes dead, dude, like the server seems pretty cool. I'll just ask her for a couple batteries.
Yeah, so I just think like
call right now, Barbara.
I think we should order like let's get some bread pudding.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we get some bread pudding? Yeah. Let's do two halves.
And I have a question. Do you have any spare? Like, do you have a couple AA batteries by chance? Thank you so much. It's kind of a weird request, but yeah.
They're gonna be like, these guys doing the podcast in here.
Hopefully Barbara like hooks it up.
Yeah, I mean, we can. How much time do you got on that?
I don't know. Not sure.
Whatever. And so,
I mean, if it stops, I mean, it's not like you lose the recording. It saves it, so it's not a big deal. It's just that we'll just have to remember where it stops, and then we'll pick right back up. So
okay.
Yeah, so you got 6 years, and then
so working the steps. Part of the steps is like. You write out a list of like your resentments, your fears, your sex inventory, and all that, and like doing that and finding out what your part is. So like any kind of problem that you have in life, like you can pretty much find your part, like what you did to fucking cause that, which really like resonated with me because that was like kind of like synced up with like Emerson and cause and effect. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, like, I'm responsible for the outcome in life, and like I'm responsible for like everything that I do, and like
a lot of accountability, dude.
A lot of accountability. So that step, and then when you go and make an amends, like one of the hardest amends I had to make was to somebody, and they have a part of the the literature where it's like the promises of the program, and there's a list of like promises like financial freedom, this and that, like it just kind of goes through that, and they're like it comes after the 9th step because like making the amends is like a really difficult thing to do. And so there's one amends that I was like, fuck, there's no way I can make it, and long story short, I made it. And after making that, I got a call from Steve-O, and Steve was like, yo dude, like I ran into you the other day, like, do you want to go on tour with me? And that was like an hour after that happened. I'm like, dude, there's no way. And you can multiply.
I think I know who that person was that you were making the amends with. I'm pretty positive I do.
Yeah, it was both of them. Like it was the whole family.
Yep.
But it was and it was like so it was just too coincidental. You hear that story multiplied by 1,000 times, and like just cleaning up your side of the street really makes all the difference in the world. But like for me now, like getting rid of those like the like drinking and doing all the drugs, like what that has done for me in my life now is like really let me identify the shame voices in my head, right? Because there's still shame.
Check in the office.
Like 2 or 3.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
Yeah, and so like so I've been in like therapy with an intimacy specialist.
Yeah.
And just trying to learn how to like be in a healthy relationship, and so like one of the major things that we're working on is shame. And
shame's a motherfucker.
Shame's a motherfucker, and like when you're drinking and doing drugs, it's like it covers up those voices because you're like, oh, if I can eat more, drink more, sleep, do overindulgence more to like cover up those voices. But like once you're sober, like oh, you're not good enough. Oh, like if I go to say something in a meeting, I'm like, oh, that was stupid. It's like it's learning to tell those voices to shut the fuck up. But it's like at first like identifying them, because a lot of times you just kind of like you don't know what they are, and you really believe those voices in your head. Yeah. And so that's kind of like just learning why I think I'm not good enough, and like learning why I think that I'm not important enough, because I am, Yep. And it usually matches up to where like a core belief system of like who you think you are. And I've been doing a lot of work around like core beliefs is like who is Scott Randolph? And a lot of times people like some of the major staples in somebody's life is like themselves, God, whatever God that is, but like I think that's an important part of like a diet. It's like kind of like the protein of your meal. Yep. And then money and sex, women, and the game changer for me was like I wrote on paper my thoughts of money, right? I had a core belief about money. Money's hard to make. Money's difficult. You got to work 18 hours a day to make a lot of money. And but I wrote that out on paper, like just kind of like write it out with no shame. Just act like nobody's gonna see it, and then look at that. And then I looked at that.
Really
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I looked at that and I was like, oh my God, dude! Like my idea of money is terrible. Hold on, we're gonna stop the tape.
Boom. Now we're back on. Here we go.
So what happened?
Dude, we lost the batteries. I apologize, guys. We were at the Derby and we asked if they, they had any batteries, and so they brought them out. But I think they may or may not have grabbed them out of a remote that hadn't been used since 1962.
But shout out to the Derby, man. Great meal. Great
Dude,
bread pudding.
That every time I go there, dude, every single time I'm like, dude, I love this fucking place, dude.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's pretty iconic for the area.
Definitely is, dude. It's seriously the best steak ever, dude. Like that was like melt in your mouth kind of shit.
All right. So I think where I left off was I was talking about like core beliefs, right? And
That's right, you were.
where I left off was like when I did a money inventory. And so when I looked at like, my idea of money, I was like, oh my God, like, dude, my thinking's off, right? And so then I rewrote the story of money in my life. And I was like, money's really easy to make. You don't need to work that hard for money. Like, money, it's easy to attract into your life. Like, money's a good thing. Money comes from God. And so I just kind of rewrote exactly the complete opposite of what I thought. And like, dude, right after I did that, man, like my relationship to money changed completely just because like my idea of it changed.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, okay, if that's true, I did that with women. What's my idea of women? I did that with God. Like, okay, what do I think God is? Like, I grew up in Catholic church and it's kind of ingrained in my head that like, you got to fear God and God's a punishing God and, you love him, but he loves you, but he hates you. And it's like, dude, I just didn't want any part of that. And so like, I rewrote a God to make sense for me. And like, dude, as soon as I started doing that, like my whole entire life started changing. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, I think it's important for everybody to do that with, I think like, if you ask like, I think Carl Jung was talking about, what makes up a healthy person. And there's like 5 aspects of health. It's sexual health, it's physical health, it's spiritual health, emotional health. Forget the other 2. I don't even know how many I said, but yeah, so,
you get the point.
You get the point. And so it's like, it's important for everybody to take a look at that in everybody's life, and most people don't,
Huh.
So
it's true. Were your parents rich growing up?
No, my dad, like, we were, we had a good upbringing. My dad was like the DP for 90210 and, brought home a good paycheck. And, so I grew up, I really didn't have any wants, growing up. Like there wasn't anything that I didn't get that, and I think I remember a buddy came over on Christmas Day and I had so many gifts on Christmas Day that I just kind of felt embarrassed because I knew that he didn't have that. I'm like, fuck. And so I don't know. I'm always pretty conscious of that. And, but then my once 90210 went down and then, there was a part where like my dad wasn't working a lot. So like probably like in high school or maybe like towards the middle of high school, like, for like 7-8 years, like my dad was out of work. So, my mom went back to work and had to get a job. And so there's some kind of rough moments. And, my mom caught me smoking pot when I was like 15 and a half or 16. And she's like, well, you know what? Like, since you're paying for your own drugs, like you got to get a job. And so like, so I started working like ever since I was like 15 and a half over at Islands in Pasadena.
Hell yeah, dude. I remember that.
Uh-huh.
Freaking Scott, dude. Scott was on the mic. There was like an intercom system.
Oh, you worked there too?
No, I didn't work there. Adam and Joe worked there.
Adam and Joe. Oh, yeah. Fuck.
So there was like this intercom system and you could like talk in, like the host could talk in and like, obviously to call like guests.
Yeah, like,
or whatever.
hey, Brian, table 2, your table's ready.
Yeah. So like this guy came in and was like, hey, my name is Satan and it's a table for like 4 or 5, whatever. And Scott's like, Satan? And he's like, no, Satan. He's like, okay, got it, Satan, got it. And so then like his table comes up and like the only reason I know this story, I wasn't there this night, but like my buddy Adam was telling me about it. He's like, dude, it was hilarious. He's like, you hear Scott like super loud on the mic. Everyone in the restaurant hears. He's like, Satan, party of 5,
yeah,
Satan.
In an Ace Ventura voice. Just so pissed. So bummed.
Adam said you used to talk to him on the mic when he was in the bathroom, like cleaning at the end of the day or whatever. He'd be like, Adam, this is God. This is God talking. Just always clowning, dude. I love it.
Yeah, dude. I remember after Islands, like I would have a different job every like 9 months, and it was that way until like I was, 29 years old. So 14 years, I've had so many different jobs.
What do you think that was? Like, you think you just weren't finding your groove, or you just weren't?
I was just kind of like a commitment phobe, and so I didn't want to. I just didn't want to be a lifer anywhere. So I just always want to kind of like freshen it up.
Yeah.
So I'd always just move to different places, and I met a lot of people, and so like just growing up in the area, like I just kind of like knew everybody everywhere I went.
Had you not met Steve-O, do you think you still would be doing the same shit?
No, because I think like I would have like reinvented myself and started a business and do something. Like I always have a hunger to like better myself and to live a really good life. So like I don't know. I like I said, I was reading a lot of Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill, and I've always wanted to be like I think a bad name for it is robber baron, but like I wanted to be so uber successful that like I'm able to just kind of be like a titan of industry. Yeah. So I don't know. And the reason behind that is just because like I think the more money you have, the more you're able to help people out.
Dude, it's so true, man. Like a lot of people like think that like when you want money, it's like, oh, like this guy just wants to like money so he can like buy all the shit for himself. It's like, no, you don't get it, dude. Like the more money I have, the more people I can help. And that's true life, dude. Yeah.
The quote that really changed me up a bit was like, it wasn't really a quote, but it was like a philosophy on Andrew Carnegie. And he was like, you spend, so if you don't know who Andrew Carnegie is, he was like the richest man in the world, like in the 1900s. And I think like he was worth something like 500 billion. I mean, in those days it was like 300 million, but I think it equated to like 500 billion. Or he was the richest man in the United States. And he was number one or number two, but I think he was number one. And so like,
Rockefeller, I think, was number one, like all time.
They were like always battling with each other for back and forth. But he said, you spend the first third of your life making as many mistakes as you can. You spend the second part of your life making as much money as you can. And you spend the last third of your life giving away as much money as you can. And a lot of people are like hating on like Carnegie just because of like, what he was and what he did. But it's like, dude, without him, like you wouldn't, he donated he built like 2,000 libraries and like, put the Carnegie Hall, like to just put Napoleon Hill was talking about like different, like he said that towards the end of his life, Andrew Carnegie almost lost his mind because he was trying to give away his money without hurting people. Yeah. And he's like, the biggest curse I can leave on my son is leaving him with his fortune, because like a lot of people can't handle that much money. I mean, look at the people that win the lottery. Like they're fucking
dude, within a couple of years.
So
it's a fucking trip, dude. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, we started to get on the subject a little bit and we kind of like went off in another direction. It's all good. But I want to talk about like the recovery stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I'm passionate about and something that like I'm trying to learn more about and, all that good stuff. So I asked you earlier if you thought that you would always be a member of like, or always attend like AA meetings. And you said, yeah, definitely. And the question I was going to ask you, like, I noticed it with your brother, with you, like there's a lot of like, there's the AA and then there was like, I think Steve mentioned something about like Underachievers Anonymous or something like that.
Yeah.
And the Sex Addicts Anonymous and just a bunch of like all these like different things. And I was wondering, I was like, dude, like why? And this is just, it's not a judgment. It's just a question. Like, I think you're one of the gnarliest dudes I've ever met. I mean, like, honestly, like without you, I don't think I ever would have pulled my head out of my ass. I think I would either be dead or I would just be fucked. I don't know where I would be, dude. It'd be bad. So I think you're a gnarly fucking dude. So what about like you, do you feel like you need to like attend like those meetings like forever? Is it because it's healthy for you, or because, what is it, dude? Like what, I can't, it's hard for me to articulate that question. But. Well,
so, I mean, my primary purpose is to stay sober and help the alcoholic to get help, Right. And so I go, I know some things are off in my life when I haven't been to a meeting in a long time. It's kind of like, AA's church for fuck ups.
Right.
So it's like, it's nice to just kind of hit the reset button there, but most importantly, I do it to like reach out to the newcomer.
Yeah.
Cause like I work with a lot of guys and, it helps keep me sober and like just giving back. Like it's part of the 12 steps.
I guess maybe I didn't word that right. Maybe the question is, do you think without AA or without like any of the others, like Underachievers or SAA or any of those, do you think like you'd be okay without them? Like you could like, now you have the tools, you have the information. I'm good to go. Like I can go along this journey and be totally cool. Like I'll be
nah,
right.
dude, because I think I'd be white knuckling it. Like I would have anxiety, and I'd kind of be like restless, irritable, discontent. Like it's a really important thing for me to give back. Like give back which was freely given. So it's just kind of like most people that go out. It's like if I call my guy with a problem, he's like, oh man, like dude, what meeting did you go to this morning? I'm like, oh, I didn't. It's like, oh well, have you reached out to a newcomer? It's like, no. It's like, okay, well, what are you calling me for? Like, so as soon as I do that, like I feel pretty good. But in terms of like, with going to AA and it's like I don't want to know what that's like to relapse, because I just know a part of people's story, like when they stop going to meetings, it's like, oh dude, you had 10 years and then you slipped, like what happened? It's like, yeah, I just got in a relationship, I stopped going to meetings. And so it's like I have to go to meetings, or like, dude, if I have a drink, like I honestly, like with the money, I'm not saying I make a lot of money, but like, dude, I have frequent flyer miles. It's like I'll be in fucking Cuba, like on a coke bender, like doing some fucked up shit. And so I just do that. Like I keep it consistent with those types of 12-step meetings. But like when I got sober, like I realized also that I had like a sex issue. Yeah. And like I've never really been in a healthy relationship, and like I was like compulsively like watching porn, and so I was like, oh my god, dude, like I gotta address that. And so like I looked at that, and I remember I did the first 6 months of sobriety, like I went to a silent meditation retreat, and there's no phones, there's no nothing, you can't do it, there's no music, there's no talking, it's just silence, right?
Did you go Swami?
Yeah, I went to the one in Encinitas.
Right? Yeah, dude, that's where I went, dude.
Well, dude, I noticed like when I quieted everything down, like, dude, all my thoughts were about sex, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? And I kind of like, I was like, man, that's a problem. And so like again, like same with the trying to quit booze, like I tried to quit doing that, and I couldn't. Yeah. So dude, like there's 12-step recovery for sex addiction. And it's like, some of the bottom line behaviors is like, for me is like what I consider a relapse is like no porn, no transactional sex, no one night stands, no sex without a condom outside of a committed relationship. And there's a certain person that if I reach out to, it's a relapse, who she is. But
I do.
Yeah. And so like, so that's just, I mean, that's just a bunch of good information for like that anybody can like know, and I mean, I think with the issue of porn, like everybody watches porn, I think, but for me, like the goal of the S program is to abstain from compulsive sexual behavior that causes shame. So like, for me, it's porn, for me, it's all the things I listed above, but for you, it could be something completely different. But it's like, the goal is to get rid of the shame. Right. And so once I had a couple years in sobriety on that, I realized that like, I was like, fuck man, okay, cool. Like I'm not doing that. Like I'm having sex with a condom. But I'm just not fulfilled. And so I started trying to go on dates, but I'm like, man, like, dude, I had a problem dating. So I started working another program to help me get into the relationships. And so it's like, I started seeing a therapist, and I started working a SLA program, and it's like, dude, I don't know. Like I said, like my idea of women was pretty screwed up just from like growing up off porn, and like and just the whole goal was to objectify women, and like, I was just completely wrong in that aspect. And so like getting in, like going on a date with somebody, it's like, I don't know how, like being in a relationship with a girl, I get really claustrophobic. Like after I sleep with them, I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And that's not right, and it's like, some people can argue, it's like, well, you just haven't found the right one. It's like, yeah, well, dude, I don't even give them a chance. And so like, what's foreign to me is going on 3 dates before I sleep with them. Right. So once I started establishing that rule, I was like, oh my God, like I like just having a conversation with the opposite sex and like really getting to know them. I'm like, man, dude, like I don't like, I stopped sleeping with a lot of women because I never made it past date number 2, just because I was just always too codependent with somebody I would just like sleep with them because I felt bad. I didn't know how to say no. And so, so there's just a lot of growing up in that aspect of my life. It's just like trying not to like bang as many chicks as I can. Yeah. And that's how I validated myself as a guy. And, like maybe there's some guy listeners out there that like really resonate with that, but it's like, dude, if you have that issue, like, there's help for that. So I just think that as you go along the spiritual path, for me, it's like, dude, drugs and alcohol worked for a while and then it didn't. And then it you know, brought me to my fucking knees. Yeah. And then I did everything I could to stay sober, which was have sex with a lot of women and do whatever I needed to do to get sober. But then, dude, the sex like stopped working for me. And so once the sex stopped working for me, like I still had just a void. And I was just like, all right, like nothing I'm doing is fulfilling. And then it came back to the Emerson quote was, you know, "Nete coisi vetus extra." And that's Latin. And the translation of that is "do not seek outside yourself." And I really like that because it's like, you know, dude, they say you have a God-sized hole. And it's like, dude, I'm just trying to fill that hole with like sex, food, sugar, booze, you know, and I like that because when I was trying to get sober, I was reading a lot of the motivational literature that was saying, you know, we're spiritual beings having human experience, and like do that. Yeah. It just all kind of connected the dots for me. And so it's like, if we're spiritual beings having human experience, you know, I think it's nice to experience everything, but at the same time, it's like you just keep running from yourself.
Yeah. Do you think you would suffer from, if you were to get into like a committed relationship, a marriage or whatever, do you think, I mean, you've heard of the Madonna whore complex, right?
Yeah.
So do you think you would have an issue with that? I mean, for the people that are listening that don't know what that is, I honestly didn't even know what it was until my wife explained it to me. But it's like one of those things where like you get into a committed relationship or a marriage or something like that, and especially if you have children with this person, it's like, dude, you can't like have like the, you know, just wild, crazy sex with this person because it's like, dude, that's the mother of my kids, dude. Like she kisses my kids with that mouth, you know? And so what ends up happening is you're going and getting, you know, $59 rub and tugs, or you're like getting with some stupid, you know, not stupid, but like just getting with some whore or whatever, you know, because you don't have feelings for that other person. So it's like, yeah, cool. Like I can like, you know, spank you, choke you, and pull your hair. And like, I don't have any issues with that. Like, I'm not going to have any shame where that's associated. Because like in my mind, like you're the whore, but like the Madonna is my wife. So like, I can only like keep it PG with her and like missionary only. Do you think you would suffer from something like that if you were to get in a committed relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think even to go into that deeper, it's like that's just textbook intimacy issues, right? So like
totally.
the rub and tug is safe. Like totally, like dude, I can get jerked off from a 60-year-old mama-san, but like I'm freaking out with my wife. It's like, you know, that's just textbook intimacy, and I suffer from that because I think like
where do you think it comes from, dude?
I was raised off porn. Like I was introduced to porn at like when I was like 6 years old. So it's like they have a thing called your arousal template, right? So your arousal template gets set from when you're like 4 to 9, and it's a part of the brain that forms, and it's like what you see growing up at that age is what you like, right? So it's like you know, a lot of the like a girl that has daddy issues, it's like they all kind of have the same like issue going on. It's like their daddy was probably not there growing up, but it's like I don't want to talk to that, but it's like you know, with that, and like when my arousal template was getting set, like dude, I was watching porn, so like it was just learning to get like objectify women, and like, you know, there's just a lot of wiring that was done at that age, and it's something that I'm really trying to work on now. So it's easier for me to like that's why I like really fucked up women, because it's safe for me, because I know it's not going to go anywhere. But like the girl who's like, oh my God, like I love you, like I want to be with you, I'm just like, oh, I can't breathe, I got to get out of it. It's like, so I think of every excuse in a book, and so it's like I'm doing the work now to like, you know, really I'm seeing actually more specifically a betrayal bond or a trauma bond specialist, because like there was a lot of trauma bonding for me growing up, and so it's like I carry that into the relationships now. And so yeah, like the Madonna horror complex, it's like I don't even think that it's like you're not fucking your wife because like it's you think she's so precious. It's just like that's, I think for me it's like it just doesn't do it for me. Like,
well, there's that. I think some of it could be like hedonic adaptation. You know what I mean? It's like the novelty of it wore off because you've been together for so long, or whatever the case may be.
Well, I freak out now. Sorry to cut you off, but like I'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to get sexually turned off by her in 6 months. I can't even be with her now. And then I just won't even give it a shot.
Totally.
Like, and so I shoot myself in the foot before I even engage with somebody, because I'm like I'm like, man, like, oh my God, she's not attractive. Oh my God, I'm going to get turned off sexually. Oh my God, I'm going to have to be married to her and I'm not even want to fuck her. I don't even want to get started. And so there's a lot of that going on in my head, which is not right, you know? And like I said, like I was just literally talking to my therapist about this 2 days ago. Like it's something that's really important for me to work on. And so it's like, you know, dude, like I'm doing my part to work on it, but I think a lot of people like associate with that, you know, and there is help. And for the person that like wants to look into it, I would seriously look into the books by Patrick Carnes, and it's the Trauma Bond and like Pia Melody's Codependent No More, and like it's textbook love addiction, man. And I hear about people recovering all the time, and it's like when I'm like acting out like sexually, like I just kind of want to isolate and I don't even want to engage with people. But like since I've been recovering off that, like dude, I want to get out and like go on a date and meet somebody and have a conversation. You know, it's like I really try not to like sleep with them before 3 dates, and just really trying to do it the right way. So yeah,
that's gnarly, dude. I was listening to you talk and I'm like, yeah, dude, like I think that a lot of people that are listening to this definitely will resonate with it, because it's shit that people don't usually talk about. You know what I mean? It's like you're thinking it, you're just not saying it, you know? And I look back at like my own life, right? With my relationship, you know, growing up with my mom was fucking toxic as fuck, man. And so growing up with that and then getting into relationships, I was like a fucking love bucket, dude, like an insatiable need to be loved, you know? But as a young adult or a young man or a young boy, and then into a young adult and then into like adulthood, of being a full grown man, it was like, I didn't realize that, I guess. I wasn't like putting all the pieces together of like, dude, like I'm like totally getting with these like dumb like hookers basically, dude, because like that was safe for me. It's like, I don't have the fear of rejection. I don't have the fear of like having to go through the work with these people. It's like, all right, cool. Like I can get my fulfillment by having sex with them, and it's totally cool. Like I feel validated. I'm good to go now. But I never would ever get like too deep with them, you know, or establish a deep connection. I think part of that is finding the partner that's willing to do that work with you, you know?
For sure. And that's true intimacy, dude. Sorry to cut you off. Like being able to share that with like the person you love, like that's the real deal.
Yeah. Like knowing and like calling it out, you know? So like I've had these conversations straight up, like with my wife, and been like, dude, like I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z or whatever. And like, I really need you to like, let me know that like, we're okay. Like everything's cool. So she's like, all right, I don't want to fuck you tonight, but I still love you. You know what I mean? So it's like, then like, it sounds stupid to say, dude, but like on the real, dude, like for me, when like what I would hear, like if my old lady was like, hey dude, I don't want to fuck you, I'm like, I better go get it somewhere else then. You know what I mean? Because it's like, she obviously is like, has one foot out the door. So let me just go ahead and see if I can sabotage the fuck out of this thing to like, just get it over with. Just get over the fucking heartache and the pain of it all and be done with it. And now that I have a partner that's able to like connect with me on a deeper level and be like, dude, I know exactly what you're doing. Like you're pushing me away on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Just because I didn't want to fuck you last night? Like, relax, bro.
Bro, I'm
tired. I was up with the baby all night. You know?
Yeah, and we don't think like that because it's all about us.
Primitive,
you know?
Dude. Totally, bro. It's so self-centered, man.
I went into my therapist, and like when I first got in there, and she was like, so like, what's going on? I'm like, all right, let me just sum me up in like one little story. Like there was an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where he walks in the door and his wife's like, Larry, we need to talk. And he goes, we're getting a divorce? And she's like, what? He's like, well, that's like normally how it goes. Like we need to talk means it's like, it's the end all. It's like the most catastrophic thing ever.
Yep.
And so it's like, I measure like a success in a relationship by how sexually attracted I am to somebody. Yep. So if like a girl doesn't want to fuck me, it's like, dude, she's tired. Like, or I don't even like, maybe she just wants to take a shit and like, she doesn't want to fuck that night. Like, but I'm like, oh my God, I need to just go beat off in the shower to like feel like, and I'll just panic. And I'm like, dude, it's just sick.
It's funny because I think a lot of dudes like experience that same feeling, but they like they're maybe not willing to call it out, or maybe they're just not aware of it. I don't know, dude. It's definitely like a sickness where it's like,
oh, it's sick in the head, dude.
Dude, I told the therapist that once. I was like, dude, like my wife and I are going through some shit, and she's like, oh, I don't know if this is, I don't know what's going on and this and that. And so like when we would lose our connections, it was like fucking catastrophic for me. It's like, oh dude, divorce for sure. Like this is not like we're done. We're gonna have to co-parent our kids and figure that out. I'm like going down this whole rabbit hole of how terrible this is gonna be. And he's like, dude, listen. He's like, your relationship with your wife and with anybody else, but mainly your wife, is like a Wi-Fi signal. He's all, every once in a while, you're gonna lose that connection in your Wi-Fi. And then you're just gonna have to work to get it back. Do some troubleshooting like you do with your router, your modem, and fucking figure it out and get the troubleshooting back just like you do with that. You do it with your wife. And it comes back and it's all good. He's all, the issue. And he did this like not meditation, hypnosis with me. And he went like super deep, dude. And he was like, basically any time that I lost my connection with my caregiver, fucking terrible shit happened to me, dude. Terrible. Like shit we don't need to talk about on the pod. Well, we can. I don't give a fuck, dude. But just really bad shit. You know, I'd lose my connection with my mom. I'll get attacked by a German Shepherd and get fucking plastic surgery on my face and 450 stitches. Lose my connection with my mom. I'll be molested by her fucking boyfriend. Lose my connection with my mom. Fucking, I'll be left in a park, you know, at 2 years old. Like just really weird, bad shit, traumatic stuff as I was growing up. And so in my brain, like what it taught me basically as a kid and then growing up was like, when you lose your connections with people, bad shit happens, you know? So like that was a story I told myself and subconsciously, and I believed it. And so anytime, dude, there was any fucking turmoil in my relationship, it was like, all right, dude, I gotta fucking look for the exit strategy. I gotta figure this shit out.
A lot of people ask me like what alcoholism is, and like it's like, dude, alcoholism, if you just replaced alcoholism with like thinking, like my thinking's fucked up. Oh, yeah. It's like, since I was in second grade, it's like, bro, I thought I had cancer before I even knew what cancer was, and I would obsess on it. Like that's alcoholism. Like even now, it's like I'll have a headache. I'm like, dude, I got a brain tumor. I'm already in my head writing the letter to my families, telling them I love them, and it's over. Like, so, I mean, I just think that like certain people have that. And, you know, you touched on a couple things. It's like the leading sex therapist, dude, Patrick Carnes, he's like, you know, addiction happens in people that like come from a traumatic upbringing. And he's like, one of the theories is that like the part of your brain where it's like, you know, I forget what it's called, but there's like a little like where when it forms, when it's fully developed at like, you know, 16, but like it when you grow up in a traumatic environment, it doesn't fully grow.
Right.
And so the addiction, it's like you always need more. You always play video games compulsively. You always do. Yeah. So a common thread among like, you know, like, I mean, I think a lot of people's stories like is different, but for the most part, I mean, you know, I think the ism can hit anybody, but like for the most part, it's like a traumatic upbringing, you know, like,
totally, dude.
Like I used to get the shit kicked out of me growing up from my older brother. And it wasn't like, you know, Wonder Years, like, oh, let me give you a nuggie. It was like, you know, I used to get the shit kicked out of me. And it's like, and like, dude, me and my brother are best friends now, but it's like that was like a really, you know, so I think that's when the trauma bond got set, because it's like, here's somebody I look up to more than anything, but they kicked the shit out of me. So there's like a lot of like trauma blindness for me. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like when I'm in a, like, you know, here's my brother who I love, but it's like these negative things are happening. And it's like, even in relationships now, like I'll be in a relationship with somebody who's like cheating on me, but I'm like, no, like, I'm completely blind to the trauma. And it's like, I intensely justify their fucked up behaviors because like I just don't know any better. And like, so once I started identifying that, I was like, wow, dude, like I do have trauma blindness. And like a lot of things that I do is I disassociate. And I was like, I don't disassociate. They're like, my therapist is like, you don't even complete sentences. Like, and I was like, oh fuck. And I started looking up like disassociating, and it's like, it's just same thing with like trauma. Like my mind goes so fast that I don't even form sentences, and I block some things out, and like, it's all heavy shit, dude. And, you know, I just think that a lot, once like a lot of people, like, you don't need to go to like 12-step, like 12-step worked for me. Yeah. But like, I just think identifying, like if you resonate with any of these like issues, like there's a solution for it. And it, you know, I would say find what works for you, but like, you know, you're not alone.
Yeah. It's a trip, dude. Like there's some things that you just said right now too, like thinking about like the isms, and like, if you're like, yeah, replace like alcohol with like your thinking, you know, and like I was on a podcast with another guy, and he was saying that
he sees his addiction coming up in like other ways. He's like, dude, like I look at my Amazon bill and it's like, dude, I have like 10 grand this month on like Amazon, dude. And he's like, what the fuck? You know, like I'm buying like all this shit that like I don't need it. I just want it.
Well,
and it's like, dude, like if you pay attention enough, it's not just what you're doing on the outside as far as like, okay, cool, like that's all good, dude.
Sorry.
Scott turning off the Corvette and the Lexus. So no, like if you like pay attention enough to like your thinking and you pay attention to what's going on around you, what you're doing, like for me, it's like, okay, cool. I stopped drinking. I'm not drinking anymore, but I'm compulsive gambling, dude. Like I'm gambling like a fucking fiend, dude. Like gnarly, bro. Like, okay, I can bet $25 on this fucking game or half or quarter or whatever. But why would I bet 25 when I could bet 1,000? And it always like starts that way where it's like, oh, I'll just bet like $100 or $50 or whatever. And then it goes like, let me max bet this thing, dude. And then now I lose. Okay, let me chase that. And next thing you know, it's like, dude, I've lost like 7 grand in a week, dude. Like, oh, wow. I don't know how I'm going to cover that shit.
I think even deeper than that, like when I was talking about earlier about the shame voices.
Yeah.
You know, like my therapist is a specialist in shame. She works with a lot of men and especially around shame and identifying these like core beliefs on who you think you are. So it's like, you know, I'm Scott Randolph, like, dude, so I'm less than, I feel like I'm a piece of shit. And like, and so I'm constantly putting myself into these situations to where that matches up with my core belief system about that, like right. About who I think I am. So it's like, yeah, of course my Amazon bill is 10,000. I can't afford it because like I'm setting myself up like for failure and to like be in debt. Like of course, like I hit her up and I was like, dude, I'm putting myself in these situations where it's kind of like, you know, I'm doing some high risky sexual behavior. And she's like, well, what's so bad about that? I'm like, well, dude, like, I don't want to get in trouble. She's like, that's what's bad about that is you don't want to get in trouble. She's like, how about you're not a piece of shit? And I was like, oh, yeah. She's like, like that's what you're worried about that. Like, how about you're better than that? How about like you're, you know? And so it's like, once you start like identifying these voices in your head, like you stop doing things in your life that like, it's like, dude, you're not going to compulsively gamble because it's like, bro, you're better than that.
Right. Yeah. I found like what works for me, and it's, you know, what good for some, not for good for others, whatever. But like what worked for me was like, when I like quit drinking, it's like, okay, if I quit drinking or I quit, like I have to quit drinking and quit gambling. I can't just do one or the other. Like it's just not going to work, you know, like I got to quit it all because if I don't, like, it's just fucked up for me and it's not going to end well. There are times, you know, like where like people ask me, oh, do you smoke weed? You know, you don't take all these opiates, but do you smoke weed? And I'm like, yeah, every once in a while I do, for sure. But for me, it's a difference of, some people say, well, that's not being sober. And I was like, that's fair enough. You know, you're right. It's a mind altering substance that comes from the earth. But like some people like, they're like, well, dude, if I smoked weed, I would end up fucking going right back on the Oxycontin, right back down this avenue, right, you know, whatever it may be. And I'm like, well, then I highly recommend that you don't smoke weed. And this was a conversation that I had with one of my buddies where he was like, dude, how do you like walk into a bar where everybody's drinking and you don't drink? I was like, because I made a conscious choice, dude. Like, I don't want to drink. I have no desire to drink whatsoever. But I also don't want to isolate myself from other people. So with that being said, like you and I were in a bar right now, dude. We're in a restaurant, but like we were sitting at the bar when we first got there. You know, it's like, I can make a joke and be, hey, can I get a vodka and water on the rocks, hold the vodka, you know, just shit like that. But like, I have no desire. It's lost its appeal for me. But I wonder, like, for you, like I was thinking, like, you were talking about shame. And I was thinking, like, with all these like anonymous classes and stuff like that, do you think like some of that plays into subconsciously, like you not being enough? Like you not being like, where it's like, you got it going on, dude. Your life is so fucking such a good spot right now, Scott. Like you're thriving, dude. Like you're like killing it. Do you think at some of the classes or whatever, or, you know, cause like the
12-step meetings I go to?
Yeah. 12-step or, I don't know if you go to underachievers, but, I feel like some of those meetings would make me like, it would highlight like that I'm not enough yet, that I'm not there yet. I still got more work. I don't know. Cause that makes sense.
I do it to feel good. And like, honestly, like, like I told you my past before, like I tried every other way. And so like, this is kind of what's been working. And it's like, it's the weirdest thing. Like the more that I go, the more I thrive. And I don't want to like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like,
Yeah.
Like, dude, like I went to a guy, and I know it's a different, it's just different things, but like this guy's like I'd say he's 100 millionaire, and I was like, dude, like what's like how did you make so much fucking money, dude? He's like, I don't know how I made so much money. He's like, dude, I just kept making amends to people, and he's like, the more I cleaned up my side of the street, the more I just started making money. And I always liked that. I mean, I obviously that's not like, but it worked for him. But it's like, dude, honestly, like the more I clean up my side of the street, the more shit just comes in. And the more it's like, dude, if you want to get high, like go, go up to somebody that you fucked over 5 years ago and just make it right. Yeah. You'll be nervous. It's like score and blow. It's like, fuck, you're nervous, you're scoring, and you score it, and you're like, fuck, I just did. It's like, dude, just saying like you were wrong for something that you did, like, bro, there's no other higher feeling you can possibly fucking feel. And it's like,
unless you're a sociopath, then you don't really give a fuck at all.
Yeah, I mean, they don't give a shit. But like driving home from that encounter, you're just like, dude, you're just on top of the world. And so it's like, I think for me, just like making your life, like I think success in life is a mathematical equation. So it's like 1 + 1 = 2. Like if you do X, Y, Z, like you can have a pretty fucking cool life. And I think if you don't, like there's something off. And I think to at least see that, like you got to get your head clear for a little while.
Do you think that there's other ways though? I guess if someone wants to be sober, like that's what works for you is a 12-step program. But if it's like if someone wants to get sober and like I don't really that just doesn't jive with me or whatever, but I do want to be sober. I want to like get sober. Do you think that there's other ways for people to do it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but my question is, are you talking about emotional sobriety? You talking about physical sobriety? You talking about just, you know what I mean? There's different elements to sobriety. So it's like the reason I like the 12-step program, it's like, dude, honestly, I was so fucking broke that I was constantly I was like, man, I wish there was a class you can take to like, to do like a deep dive in the fucking, like who we are as a person. I couldn't afford therapy.
It's called ayahuasca, dude.
Dude, I know people that have done ayahuasca in sobriety and then like they're back to using again.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's interesting, dude.
And that's
somebody said something about that the other day, and I found it interesting. It was a guy I had on the podcast he's been sober for like, I don't know, 7 years or 8 years, something like that. And he was saying that people that end up drinking, like people that end up like killing their sobriety and like say, fuck it, I'm gonna go drink. It's like you were looking for that drink. It wasn't like you like, oh, I was sober and then just fell into my lap. It's like, no, you were seeking that out. He's like, and he used the example of like when people cheat on their spouses, like you don't like just go and just cheat on your spouse, dude. Like there was other things that led up to you getting to the point where you end up cheating on your spouse, dude. Like you were leading. And so same thing with like sobriety, I think like, because there's a buddy of mine we were in the military together and he's been sober for 6 years or I think 6 or 7. And he went to AA and was like, he was gnarly with it, and did 12 steps and like killing it, but he's like, no, it just doesn't work for me. And it didn't work for him. The same reason that kind of like what it turned me off a little bit was the meetings turned me off, not the steps at all. It was the meetings that bothered me a little bit because I felt like I was losing a sense of like, I don't know, power or accountability. Like I heard a lot of people that were sharing their stories of like, they lost their kids and like, I mean, terrible stories, dude, of like, I lost my kids because of my drinking and like, blah, 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 but I just kept fucking drinking. And then like, and then just like their life was like terrible because they just kept fucking drinking, kept like relapsing and shit. And it's like, at what point do you like just take some ownership and be like, dude, get your shit together. Like, you're losing your kids, dude. Like, stop.
Yeah, well, I think, the AA is 12-step based, right? So it's like, what turned you off? It's like the meetings, but like, did you work the 12 steps? And
partly
right. So like the people that like knock AA normally are like, oh, it just didn't work for me. It's like they just didn't complete the steps.
I agree. I'm gonna agree with that, dude.
And it's not, dude, it's not bad or good. Like I don't even care. But but like I said, like every time somebody's like, it just didn't work for me. It's like, oh well, I couldn't get past step 3. It's like, oh, oh cool. Like okay. So like the 12 steps were designed to like just remove the obsession. Right. And like I said, I was looking for, like, I was so broke I couldn't afford therapy, and like I know Napoleon Hill had like a course, but it was like $300, and I was like, and then once I found out like that like the 12 steps were actually like like things that you can do and like write out and like and do the inventory. I was like, oh fuck, I'm in.
It's like homework.
And so doing that, like you take a look, it's equivalent to a business running itself without doing like a QuickBooks, right? So you don't know where you're failing or where you're succeeding. It's like, oh, well, dude, I'm running this business, I'm killing it. But like, it's like, well, how much are you making a month? It's like, well, I don't know, but I know this money. It's like, you don't even know, right? So you wouldn't run a business like that. Yeah. So I wouldn't, like, I was running Scott Randolph LLC that way. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is wrong with me, but it's like, I never looked at that on paper. Yeah. And so what the 12 steps are designed for is like to like literally fucking cut you open and clean you out and sew you back up. Yeah. So it's like for people that say it's not for them, it's like me saying, surfing's not for me and I never even got in the water. Got it. It's like, well, I read all these books on that, but it's just like I don't like the water. It's like, well, have you ever surfed? It's like, well, no. Yeah. It's like going to the gym and you're just in the locker room talking about lifting weights, but you're like, dude, I'm not getting buffer. It's like, it's like, yeah, but have you ever lifted weights? It's like, well, no. It's like, yeah, the 12 steps are the weights. Yeah. No, that makes sense, dude. I think that part of like, cause for me, like, and I think for a lot of other guys that are maybe wired similar to the way that I am, I think the meetings I just didn't jive with them, dude. That doesn't mean that I didn't have to work the steps. You know what I mean? I don't need to go to a meeting to like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you would still work the steps with somebody else, by yourself, whatever. Dude, I'll go to a meeting and leave halfway through. It's like in the big book. It never talks about meetings. It talks about working with others. Yeah, and I think maybe and I only went to a couple of meetings, and like I wasn't feeling it, so like it kind of whatever. Anyway, we can get off that topic. I get it. I get it. Meetings are boring and they're not for everybody. But like, dude, it's the alternative is sitting on a bar stool wishing you got sober or sitting in a meeting. Fuck it, you know what I mean? But the meeting wasn't going to keep, I guess that's the point. It's like the meeting wasn't going to keep me from drinking. It's like, I'm going to go to a meeting so I don't drink. It's like, no, I'm not going to drink because like, I know my life is way better because I'm not drinking. You know what I mean? Like my life is abundantly better. Like I'm doing way more shit than I ever have done in my life. Like I feel better. I wake up without a headache. Like I'm more vital, this and that. There's still obviously a lot of work to do, but it's like the meeting it wasn't like a make or break for me going to a meeting. And for some people, I know that it totally is. And I honor that and respect it. Well, it's just like you said, like, it's like, dude, you were, some people are like, well, dude, you were looking for that first drink. You were looking to cheat on your wife. It's like, I think, maybe you were looking to like hate AA. Maybe. And because I think I think for me in my experience, like I had an older brother who was in AA and I fucking hated him. Yeah. And so anything that he did, I was like, because I remember specifically, I didn't get into the program for a long time because I was like, oh, dude, I don't want anything that guy has. And dude, like I stayed away for a long time because I had resentment. Because I was like, dude, I'm not like that. Like I'm not. But it's like, whether or not you are, you're not. I just think, dude, like honestly, if they did a 12-step program for fucking life, like, dude, if you did like a Life Anonymous, because most people's lives are unmanageable. Like if you looked at your fucking life and you did a 12-step on Life Anonymous, it's like, dude, if you did that in high school, or if you like took a look at your life, the way that 12 steps makes you take a look at your life and like find your part in things, like you would have a lot less fuck ups. I would agree with that, dude, for sure. I think it's gnarly, man, and I think that everyone's gonna find their own way. You know what I mean? Like you go, you find, you like people will come into your awareness and like, and like it puts you down that journey, whatever journey you need to go down. Cause that's like exactly like with me getting off all the drugs that I was on. Dude, it was like, I hadn't talked to you in like fucking, it'd been a couple of years, dude, since I'd even seen you, I think. And I don't even know how we started talking again. I don't even know how that even came to be. I don't remember. But it just happened. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, cool. And then it sent me down this journey of like self-discovery. And it's funny because like now I've shared some of the things that you've shared with me along the way, like where it's like, the Wayne Dyers and all this other stuff. And I've shared that with other people and like, they've hit me up like later and been like, dude, I can't thank you enough, dude, for like telling me about this guy and telling me about some of these books and like whatever. It's really made a huge difference in my life. And I'm like, totally, man. No, it's fucking Scotty told me about it. So like, it's gnarly, bro. No, it's super gnarly, man. Yeah. And I just think for the most part, like for me, motivational books, like, took me so far down the road. Like I'll read books now and I'll listen to like a lot of like audio books and things like, but like there's nothing like just it's like they have a saying. It's like you put down the magnifying glass and you fucking pick up a mirror, right? Like it all starts with you. And so it's like the more self-work you could do, any way that is. It doesn't even have to be a 12-step meeting, but like I find the most successful people in life are the people that have actually fucking looked at a mirror for a long time and like really fixed what was going on. Because like in mental alchemy, it's like as above, so below. Like your outside world is a reflection of what's going on inside.
100%.
So if you're freaking out inside, like, dude, it's no wonder your fucking life's a mess.
Totally, dude. Like there's another thing you said a little bit ago about how, like you're like, dude, I'm thinking like, oh, I got a headache, dude. I'm dying of cancer. Like,
oh, bro.
I'm this, and I'm like, dude, that's so funny. I literally, what's today? Saturday? Say Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like yesterday, I went to acupuncture and cupping with this guy who's like, have you heard of Qigong?
Yeah.
And so like, dude, he's like a master, bro. So like we were talking about it. He's also, what are some of the issues that you have like with anxiety? And I was like, well, dude, like I'll be in a social setting, like whether it be at a restaurant, whether we were just at, like I was getting a little bit there while I was there, and I like was cool that I just let it go, like wrote it out. But I'll be in like a social setting like that where there's a lot of people, a lot of noise around me, and dude, I'll start waking out, bro. Like I'll get like, dude, my chest will get tight. I'll like my head will start. I'm like, dude, I'm definitely having a heart attack right now, bro. Like my arm's starting to hurt. Like I don't know, dude. It's like going down my left arm. My fingers are going numb. Like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you start going down this journey, dude. And like it was funny because I was telling him, and like he's this like gnarly like Chinese dude, like he's like, dude, what's wrong with this guy? Like we're gonna fix you up, man. But like I was thinking about that, and I was like, dude, part of that is, I don't know if that's the addiction or if that's like just the trauma in my life or like what, I don't know where that comes from, but it's funny that you said that because I didn't know. It's one of those stigmas, dude. Like you don't really talk about that shit with other people, but now that you share it, like it made me feel more willing to like share, like, oh dude, I experienced some of that same shit, dude.
Well, when I was like 19, I read this book and I don't remember what the fuck it was, but the only thing I remember from it was anxiety is your heart's way of telling you that something in your life has to change. And that kind of catapulted me into this whole like, cause I used to have crippled with anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. And I just like I said, dude, like I literally looked at my life like a profit and loss statement. And I looked at what I was failing in life, and I looked at where I was succeeding, and I tried to wipe out all the places I was failing. And I could still get that way when I'm doing compulsive things or whatever, but it's like for the most part, like dude, my anxiety level went from like I think before it was maybe, I don't want, a scale of 1 to 10, it was like a fucking 30.
Yeah.
And then now it's maybe like a 1.
That's awesome.
If that, and sure, like if I get into a bad like the last relationship I was in, it was just, I mean, dude, it was just multiplied times a million.
Right.
But like, but again, like something in my life had to change, and what like changed was I wasn't listening to my intuition. And I mean, we didn't even like go into that in India, but like I recently went to India, and like it was I kind of made the conscious decision over there. Like I was like, okay, I've always wanted to do a trip like that. Like, and I think part of the reason why I never wanted to settle down with anybody was because I thought like a girl was going to take that away from me.
Yep.
Like I would always want to do a trip like that by myself. But then when I was over there, I was like, all right, dude, like I've literally kind of knocked everything off my bucket list that I needed to do by myself. And I mean, I backpacked the Caribbean by myself. I backpacked Central America. I took a city bus from Panama to Mexico, like backpack Asia. And I mean, I've done all that, like hitchhiked on boats through the Caribbean, like, and the India trip kind of like sealed the deal for me. And I was like, kind of made a conscious decision. I was like, all right, dude, when I get back, like I'm ready to live my life. And I think part of me, circling back to what Andrew Carnegie said, it was like, dude, that was like the end of like the first third of my life.
Yeah.
And so now the second part of my life is to make as much fucking money as I can. And I'm not saying like money's not the most important thing, but like, dude, I have so many ideas and so many, like, I want to do a lot of good. And so it's like, I really want to give back. And that's kind of like, for sure, one of the purposes of my life.
It's fucking awesome, dude. And I like, you can see the transition, dude, like over the years, like of you know what I mean? And like, I always questioned, like, I still do. Like when people are like just doing like gnarly shit, like self-deprecating stuff. It's like, dude, like why are you doing that? You know? And like to look and like see like how like confident you are in your own yourself. You know, you walk into a room and like you're super confident. The way that we just talk to Aussies, in-laws and stuff like that. Like you're like there was no like shyness there. There was no hesitation at all, dude. You're just like, why not? Hey, how you doing? I'm Scott. Nice to meet you. Like you don't even like, for me, I'm kind of like, I'm still, at that point where I'm like, a little nervous or whatever. Once I start talking, I'm okay. But there's still a little social anxiety there. But that's a good point, dude. That's something I need to start looking at, because like, do you have anxiety? I think that's the other thing, is anxiety is like such an overused word. It's like a buzzword, and like you say like, oh, I have anxiety. You think it's like it's test anxiety or some shit. It's like, no, dude, these are like physical symptoms, bro.
The last time I had anxiety, like it was a little while ago, and I was like trying to fight it, and I was like, nah, dude, like and finally I just sat there and like that, did a little mindful meditation. But a lot of people, it's like a buzzword, mindfulness.
Yep.
But I was like, you know what, fuck it, dude. And I meditated into my like wherever the anxiety was in my stomach.
Yep.
And I just like try to go as deep as I could with my mind into my stomach where the pain was. And like, I was just like, all right, like I'm not running from it. And I kind of went into it, and I just, dude, it melted. And I physically felt it melt, because I Wayne Dyer has a saying, or I think it's Neil Donald Walsh, was like, whatever you resist persists, and whatever you look at disappears.
Yeah, I think that was Wayne Dyer.
You know what it was? It was Conversations with God.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And which is an unbelievable book. Book one.
Dude, I bought that on audio. You're actually the one that recommended it.
Dude, I went to see Neil Donald Walsh in Chicago like 6 months ago, and I had dinner with him. Like,
it's awesome,
dude. And shout out to James Twyman, dude. Like, James Twyman wrote the I Am with Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
And dude, I had breakfast with him, and it's like I don't really like. I kind of like don't let people in, but dude, I was just like, something about that guy. I was just like, dude, like, do you mind if I sit down with you and have breakfast? Like, dude, we had a great conversation, and I think he wrote the Moses Code as well, and like the I Am, like
I Am Discourse or whatever.
Something, yeah, I forget, but anyway, and so it's just crazy, like kind of putting the pieces together, like because I kind of crafted my life around just listening to my intuition. And I think what was so like I said, where last time I had a really bad anxiety was I was in a really bad relationship. And like, dude, it was literally because I just wasn't listening to my gut. And I think that like,
you're listening to your dick, bro.
I was listening to my head and my dick. And I think like the more you sit in meditation, the more you're able to hear your intuition. And I think if you follow that intuition, it's that God voice inside your head that's like kind of just guiding you on the path that like, you were put here for.
Yeah, I think that's what flow is, dude. It's like when you feel like there's no resistance, where it's like, dude, you're just like in the flow, and like things are just happening. Like when there's like constant resistance and like, I don't know, just a bunch of like static, dude. It's like, bro, you're obviously on the wrong path, dude. Like it's not working for you, And so like, that's like, I can even tell like with my anxiety where it's like, dude, like I'm like way better, like 100% better than what I used to be, but I still have issues with it where it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, well, what do I do about it? And so like, now it's like just positive self-talk. I'm like, dude, you're good, man. And I just do the whole, and then what, like, well, and then what? Well, then you like stroke out in front of all these people. Well, and then what? Well, then you're fucking probably dead. And then what? Well, then I don't know, that whatever, you're dead, dude. Like it's over.
I think like for me, when I wake up, it's like, all right, dude, like I punched the clock, and it's like, dude, God, you're in control.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like, I know God's a pretty weird word for some people, but it's like, it's whatever my idea is. Like I have a personal relationship with like, like a higher power that works for me. And so it's like, I punch the clock and I'm like, dude, whatever you want to do, like you're in control. And so I think like any sort of resistance to like that path, it's like, you're going to get anxiety. It's like, cause it's like, I'm just so used to trying to run the show, and dude, I try to do it myself for so long that it's like, it's almost like, dude, I jump into a river, and then I turn around and I swim upstream. But all you got to do, dude, is turn around and enjoy the view, and you'll get to where you're going. But it's like, we're trying to run the show, and it's like, dude, we got to paddle, and we got to do this, and we got to turn around. And it's like, why? Like, just fucking chill.
Yeah, totally. I think people try to find that balance. I mean, that balance of like trying to be successful and balance of like doing good shit. and also of just letting go, being like, okay, how do I find the balance of letting go, but at the same time, being successful and providing for my family and doing these other things. So it's like it's like trying to find a happy medium of like, being a go-getter, but at the same time, like not trying to like orchestrate everything in your fucking life,
Yeah, it's just like getting your ego out of the way.
Totally, dude. Your ego's not your amigo, bruh.
Dude, ego stands for edging God out.
Totally. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, man, that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast.
Uh-oh.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
So if you had one person or one book or both that inspired you the most in your entire life, dude, who would that person be or what would that book be and why?
I mean, I don't know. I think Emerson, like I really dove down the rabbit hole with Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I think reading his essays especially on compensation, really changed my life. Like Emerson, Napoleon Hill, Luther Burbank, like yeah, I mean, I know you just said one that or one this.
No, dude, it don't matter. It could be 1, 5, 10. I don't care.
Yeah, and then Conversations with God, book 1, really like kind of changed up my spirituality a bit. And but I think listening to the audiobooks of Napoleon Hill really, like, I was going through a hard time with him in my life.
Yeah.
When I was listening to him, and like, dude, he has some lectures that I've probably listened to over like a couple hundred times, and reading Law of Compensation really like kind of laid out the template for like what I need to do to succeed in life.
It's fucking dope, dude. It's funny, dude. You told me about Conversations with God, and like when I got sober, the first night that I was getting sober, I slept in my truck down in Huntington Beach, dude. Like, I needed to be by the water. I needed to hear the waves crashing, and I couldn't be in a house. I just felt weird about being in a house. I just needed to be in my truck by myself. So like you had got me on the Paul Bragg. Was it Paul Bragg?
Bragg's like apple cider vinegar?
Yeah. Dude. Yeah. So like you got me on the ACV, dude. So like I was like, all I brought down with me was like a couple gallons of water, a big old jug of ACV, dude.
Bro, you're such an extremist, dude. It's like,
it's insane.
Fuck, dude.
Totally insane, dude. So like I went down there with that shit and some honey. I think I had honey too, some raw honey, dude. And I put in Conversations with God, dude, on audio. And I just listened to it, bro, and like just slept in my truck, and I was having the gnarliest brain shocks, dude, like the worst of the worst, man. Where it feels like your brain is being electrocuted.
Yeah.
When you're coming off benzodiazepines, and it's fucking terrible. I thought I was dying, dude. I thought like, oh, dude, I'm dying. Like this is God like striking me dead. That's how bad it hurts. It's really loud. But I was listening to that book, dude, and it fucking helped, dude. It really did help me get through it, dude.
Yeah, what's really helped me, like 4 or 5 years into sobriety, really like project me into is a guy named Vernon Howard. Vernon Howard, like, dude, he just leveled up my like spiritual game.
I check him out for sure.
Yeah, check him out.
So the next question is, if you had one lesson, one of the main, like the best lesson that you could give to somebody else that you've learned along your journey, if you like whoever's coming up, whether it be in sobriety, whether it be just in life in general, if you had one lesson that you would want to share with somebody that you wish somebody would have shared with you when you were coming up so you didn't have to learn the lesson yourself, what would that lesson be and why?
Man, I'd probably say like learn about the laws of nature and adjust yourself to them. And those who adjust themselves to the laws of nature can profit by them, and those who can't figure out what they are will just blow with the stray winds of circumstance. And that is to quote Napoleon Hill directly.
I like it, man.
To go into that a little more, when I heard that, I started looking into like laws of nature, right? And so like
law of attraction, law of cause and effect,
law of resonance,
yeah.
Law of germination, like there's just certain laws that like if you find out what they are, like and you learn how to like make them work for you in your life. And I think that the most important one for me would be like law of cause and effect, and Emerson calls it the chancellors of God. And I think like once you can figure out how to like contort them to your life, like you'll go really far. And I'm not sure if you know who Luther Burbank is, but Luther Burbank is the guy responsible for all of the like hybrids of fruits, the Idaho potato, like he invented the double-bladed grass, like the roses. He's responsible for like the spineless cactus and like all these things, right? In Yogananda, like Napoleon Hill talks about Luther Burbank, and Yogananda Paramahansa from the SRF said the saintliest man he ever met was Luther Burbank. And Luther Burbank's secret was he figured out the laws of nature and was able to manipulate nature to work for him.
I dig it, man. It's fucking dope. Well, bro, I appreciate the shit out of you, man.
Yeah,
honestly,
dude.
I fucking love you, dude. I'm really stoked that
I
we were
love
able
you too,
to
bro.
make this fucking podcast happen, dude. I think it was hilarious that we were doing it inside of the Derby.
Fuck, dude. Shout out to the Derby again.
Dude, seriously, bro. The Derby is legit, man.
Dude, people were like walking by because it's like a fine dining establishment, and they're just like, what the fuck is going on?
You're wearing a jean jacket, dude, with some fur, some lamb's wool.
Dude, you come in with like a fucking t-shirt. Gun case full of mics. Just like, bro, what is going on here, dude? Like Ozzy comes in wearing a vest and is like looking nice and hair combed.
Mustache is all nice.
We're just fucking came from the shooting range.
Totally, dude. But no, it was good shit, man. And I sincerely wish you like tons and tons of success. And like, obviously, like you're my bro, so like I'm gonna be there 100% of the way supporting you, man, in whatever endeavor you're gonna get into next.
Yeah, likewise, dude.
And keep kicking ass, bro. And and I appreciate you, dude. I honestly, like, from the bottom of my heart, man, I have so much like gratitude, and like I'm eternally grateful for you, like coming back into my life and like highlighting for me like some of the things that I need to work on. And it keeps happening, dude, over and over and over again. It's like we don't talk for a while, and it's like I'll talk to you again, and you're like, well, I mean, maybe you should think about this, Josh. I'm like, fucking asshole.
Why?
Man.
What did I say that made you think about it?
Well, like when you were talking about like the AA stuff, where it's like, okay, like I don't. Well, you said the AA doesn't work for you, but that's like saying like, that fuck surfing. Well, have you ever surfed now?
Right.
It's like, so just things like that make you start thinking like, okay, like, am I just shutting this out? Or am I trying to be the one that's in control all the time?
Yeah.
Well, fuck yeah, I am, dude. Because that's how I roll, dude. And when you were like, dude, you're a total extremist. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I am, dude. Like everything is
dude, I say that because like, dude, like we're so much alike, and it's like, I just know that it would like, I'm not trying to 12 step you. Bro, if you went or didn't go, like it doesn't make a difference to me. I just know like, bro, we're pretty similar.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you'll be like, bro, I'm not going to eat for a year. It's like, bro, if you have that kind of thinking, like you got the ism, dude.
Oh, dude, that's totally how I am, dude. Like anything that I set my mind to, it's like, no, I'm just gonna fucking do it.
And you're just like, hey, Tex, how you doing? You're like, great. And you're just like, eyes are white, and you're just staring into my soul. It's like, bro, fucking, that's okay.
Oh, fuck,
copy.
Man. Yeah, totally, dude. I need to. There's still a lot of work, man. But I think that's part of the journey, dude. And like the fact that you're still in my life for me tells me that it's like, cool, man. Like number one, there's still work that I need to do. Number two, like there's value there. You know what I mean? Like you add value to my life. Like you make me want to be a better person. You make me a better person. You force me to level up and to max out, dude. And like for me, like
I appreciate that.
That's important, dude. And I love you for it, dude.
Yeah, dude. And fuck, man. Like shout out to all the TC heads, dude.
Totally, bro. Totally. And so we need to do like a fucking reunion, man. We should
follow up
one of like Steve's like shows, dude. We should just all show up, dude. A bunch of Temple City heads, dude.
Yeah, I'll be in Brea. I think that's the next date. I leave for New York City tomorrow, and yeah, dude. But catch you in Brea, man. I'll get you tickets.
I'm down. All right, brother. Well, I love you, man. Safe travels, and we'll talk soon.
All right, cool, dog. You.
All right, brother. Late.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.